Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So thankful you could join me on this beautiful Wednesday. You know, we're sprinkling a little bit of that on there. A little bit of love for you. Hope you guys are having a great Wednesday. What we're going to be talking about today is, are we living in a simulation? What? This was a topic that got really popular back around a year ago, potentially even more, when Elon Musk was talking about the idea of us living in a simulation when it comes to planet Earth, and why it's extremely likely that we more than likely are in a simulation. And this is something that I wanted to break down as well, because for me it can go either way. So this idea of a simulation was made popular by Elon Musk when he was interviewed and asked, what's the potential of us living in a simulated universe? To which he responded, it's almost certain that we are living in a computer simulation. And I want to break this down for you. And this is going to get a little bit deep, but hang in there with me. So his idea of a simulation is, if we have video games that have progressed quite substantially in 40 years, from Pong to basically what we have now, where our characters are in open maps, we're able to control them, we're able to give them distinct features, we're able to live in this idea of controlling a virtual program, then it must also be pretty likely that we as well are living in a simulation. And the reason why he says this is, if we were able to do this in a short period of time, what is the likelihood that there is a higher intelligence civilization that has also done the same thing and started the human race as a computer-generated video game, if you will, and ultimately progressed to the point where now humans have consciousness, humans have the ability to think for themselves, humans have the ability to do things that, as far as we know, tens of thousands of years we weren't able to do. So his idea is, if we've done this in a short period of time with the consciousness that we have and the intelligence that we have, what's the likelihood that a extremely advanced civilization has already done this and created the human race? And he says that it's almost certain that that is exactly what happened. And when you start to think about it, this really makes sense. Because when you start to look at what we are able to do and how fast our technology has advanced in just the past 20 years, this isn't even in video games, this is computers as a whole. We went from having no sort of computers to cell phones that have the ability to do almost anything, and now we're starting to do quantum computing. Quantum computing being computers that can run possibilities in the future from a numeric standpoint and predict accuracy extremely close. So it's able to filter through millions and billions and trillions of possibilities in a short period of time to ultimately predict what's going to happen in regards to human evolution. And this is something that, again, we've done this in a short period of time. So if we were able to do this, it must also be true that there are civilizations out there that have had this ability for a long period of time and have almost created the human race to see what would potentially happen if they were to influence or spark this idea of consciousness from a human race standpoint. So he brings a very valid point to the idea of us living in a computer simulation, but also I have my own thoughts about it as well. So as if I mentioned, it isn't deep enough already, it's about to get a little deeper. So the idea that Elon Musk presented of us being in a computer simulation makes a tremendous amount of sense. I've thought this out quite rigorously and thoroughly. And he has a lot of solid points when it comes to quantum computing and consciousness and the idea of an advanced civilization putting all of this together and ultimately creating the world that we live in. It makes plenty of sense. Where I start to draw a distinction, and I'm not saying he's incorrect, but where I can see it being a little bit different, is that would mean that those advanced civilizations are in a different consciousness than we are. And I'm going to break down what I mean by consciousness. Consciousness is experienced in different levels of dimensions. There are 11, I actually think there's 12 levels of dimensions. So right now we're living in the 4th dimension, 3D objects moving throughout time, and we are tracking it as history. The 5th dimension is anything that's possible in regards to wiping out anything that's existed up until this point. So this is a little bit tricky to understand, but I'm not going to get into 5th dimensional consciousness. Just understand that we observe our reality as a 4th dimension. So there are other civilizations out there that are experiencing consciousness in different dimensions, whether it be a 1st dimensional existence, a 2nd dimensional existence, anything up to a 11th or 12th dimensional existence. But to say that advanced civilization created this consciousness, this dimension, and this life that we ultimately live creates a separation. And this is where I think Elon Musk is getting it wrong. I like to describe consciousness as almost religious, but not religious. I'm not a very religious person. But the way I like to describe consciousness is it's the idea that we're omnipresent. It's the idea that we're eternal, that our souls live on, and that ultimately we're just experiencing this life right now, right? And you can say it's because of God, you can say it's because of Allah, you can not be religious at all, you can just say it's because of whatever, okay? But at the end of the day, what this really is this is a connection with something higher than yourself, whether it be God or Buddha, or I'm more spiritual, so I like to think of infinite intelligence. So you are one with that God, that infinite intelligence, that whatever it is. So if you are that would also mean that those advanced civilizations who are in different dimensions or in different universes or in different realities or whatever you want to call it, that would also mean that they have to be one with that as well. So what that would mean is that if we are one with them, there is no separation. So if there is no separation, that means that they would also experience what we're experiencing had they came down to this parallel universe, or they came down to this existence, or they came down to this dimension, or whatever. So in my opinion, Elon Musk, he has a good way of explaining it from a scientific standpoint, but where I believe it's wrong is there's a separation there. There's a separation saying that advanced civilization is out there and we're not on the same playing field as them. But if spirituality says anything, or religion says anything, or infinite intelligence says anything, then that means that we're not separate at all. We are exactly the same as that advanced civilization, which means that they could not have created us because they are us. If they created us, that means there was a time that we never existed. And if we never existed, then they never existed, because energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Energy can only be moved from one parallel universe to another based on, or one reality to another based on it being observed by a controller. A controller is consciousness, and this is what quantum mechanics says. You have to go look at the movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? What the Bleep Do We Know says that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, and energy is manipulated or controlled by consciousness, which means that once I observe something, it becomes real. If I'm not observing it, it's not real. It exists in two different points in existence anywhere. So it might exist in this existence, or it might exist in a different parallel universe. Now stick with me, it's getting deeper. So if this matter exists in different dimensions, that means that once I observe it, it becomes real in this dimension or in this existence, and it's no longer real in another one. So my consciousness is controlling this. That would mean that this advanced civilization is also controlling consciousness. So if we didn't exist and all we are is particles of energy or matter, that would mean that if we were created by this advanced civilization, we didn't exist at one point, which means that matter didn't exist, and matter has always existed and will always exist. So that means that from a scientific standpoint, we've always been here. Always. Our consciousness has always been here. So if you take out the consciousness, we never existed, which can't happen because particles of energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So this idea of a parallel, or this idea of us living in a simulation, starts to break down a little bit when you think about quantum mechanics, because that would mean that this advanced civilization never existed at one point, and if they never existed at one point, neither did matter. And that's where this hiccup comes, because now it goes against the laws of the universe and it goes against the laws of quantum mechanics. So I could be wrong. That's just the way I kind of think about this thing. I like the idea of a simulation and it does make a lot of sense, but then there's some flaws that I see as well. So I hope you guys stuck with me throughout this whole video itself. I know it's difficult to understand. If I need to break this down in a future video, please let me know. But also comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think that we're living in a simulation, or do you think that we control our own existence, and that this idea of an advanced civilization creating what we know as planet Earth today is just something that's far-fetched and isn't real? But I hope this video helped you. If you haven't subscribed, you already know what to do. I'm just going to point to it right there. The last video was over 100 views, yet we're only at 55 subscribers, and I'm sorry, but there's a lot more of you that continue to watch these videos that aren't subscribed. So definitely hit that subscribe button. We don't always talk about things like this. We talk about becoming successful, becoming the best version of yourself, making as much money as you can potentially fathom, and just becoming the best version of yourself. So I hope that this video helped you guys. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your week. Peace.